kind of lost for words, to be honest. Been wanting this for so long, this combination of mountains and ocean, just getting to do it on your own terms, on your boat. It feels pretty surreal right now. Very dreamlike.
Like every story, this one can be told in a series of chapters. There's the chapter where we downsized our lives and left the city behind to live in a tiny trailer in the woods. When we realized that tiny home living was right for us, and we desired a life that was more connected to nature. There's the chapter where we did a stint of van life, adventuring all over in James' 1975 GMC Vendura, and the sequel, when we purchased our '88 Chevy Brenda. This is when we experienced all the challenges of life on the move.
It's a little chaotic back there.
As well as not moving. Then there is the chapter where we scaled up from van life, purchasing this run-down Airstream trailer circa 1968. And all the subsequent stories within that. When we overcame all the challenges that come with learning and building a tiny home without any experience. There's the side story where we worked endlessly in healthcare amidst the ever-changing stressful circumstances of the pandemic. And the turning point where we stepped away from our healthcare jobs, following our dream of pursuing a more creative life and adventuring full-time. All along learning photography and videography to be able to share these stories with you. The chapter we are in now is the one in which we purchased this 40-year-old sailboat with minimal sailing experience and teach ourselves, hopefully, how to sail and live self-sufficiently at sea. We're still writing this chapter, so we're not quite sure how it's all going to play out or how and when it will end. But we know this will most certainly be our biggest and most challenging chapter yet.
Our bilge keeps filling up with water because our stuffing box is leaking, and we just seen smoke come out of our electric fuel pump. So we think that's toast as well, which is going to make getting to where we need to go really, really challenging.
We wanted to own a boat long before we decided to live in an Airstream trailer. But a tiny home with sails is a lot more expensive and complicated than a tiny home on wheels. So our first step was restoring our 50-year-old leaky Airstream with all its mold and rotten subfloor issues. And in doing so, taught ourselves about electrical, plumbing, and propane systems, completely building every component of our home with our own two hands. Working with fiberglass for the first time to build our bathroom, skills we knew would come in handy aboard a boat. Our experiences also taught us how to remain calm in stressful situations and how to communicate and work together to best overcome challenges.
Concentrate on what you're doing, James. Emergency tiller on because we're now in an emergency.
We've realized how capable we are and confirmed that this life we're living and the one we're working towards is the one that lights us up. We're ready to take the next big step, feeling anxious, scared, overwhelmed, a mixed bag of emotions that I imagine anyone would feel when they embark on the next big chapter. To help ease our anxiety, we like to think about our Airstream growing sheets and sails. We remind ourselves how much we've learned and accomplished so far. and how all of that will help us better navigate our experiences at sea. The next big learning curve is dotted with many points of knowledge we need to learn in order to travel with the wind. Rigging, weather, tidal shifts, ocean navigation, all the things that will keep us safe and afloat. We know that captaining a boat comes with a lot of risk and carries a ton of responsibility. But the first step in making big dreams possible is demolishing the initial fear so that you can take the leap. We needed to learn enough about a sailboat that we could confidently buy one. Another big obstacle was the financial ball and chain attached to boatlife. Boats often have a hefty price tag attached, and maintaining one can be very costly. So building a boat into our budget was the next step to making full-time adventure possible. This was one of the reasons we made the transition to tiny home living a few years ago, and doing so allowed us to save enough money to break into the boat market. The process of purchasing our sailboat was one that we didn't document on camera so much. But we'll summarize it by saying that it involved countless hours of research and scanning online listings, cold calls to strangers, and warm conversations with experienced sailors. A few sea trials, an expensive boat survey, and a few letdowns. Our long and extensive search eventually led us to this 1979 Catalina that was still floating in a marina close to home. Catalinas are popular and well-made American boats, designed by Frank Butler from 1972 to 2008. These fiberglass racer cruisers are considered to be one of the most successful keelboat designs ever built. This 30-foot monohull sloop has a tall masthead sloop rig and a fixed fin keel. A guy named Bob had been working hard to bring it back to life. Bob had successfully fixed a lot of the major issues. He had done the through holes, replaced the old wooden rigging spreaders, and installed a new diesel engine, to name a few. We no doubt inherited a huge project, and there's a lot more that needs to happen before we can comfortably live aboard and sail to all the amazing places we dream about. It's easy for us to feel overwhelmed, but we try to keep focused on each small step, because we know one day we'll look back and realize we completed a marathon and remember it was never about the finish line at all. A lot has happened that we haven't had a chance to share with you yet. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be catching you up to speed so we can meet you here in real time. We still have our tiny home on wheels, but for the next few months, you'll find us on our tiny home with sails. We've got some big adventures on the horizon, and we're so excited to share the journey with you.
Cheers!
To our first sailing season. We want to say a huge thank you to our subscribers who keep showing up week after week and supporting us, and to our patrons who show up in a big way. If you like this episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. It really helps us out.